Right on schedule, President Biden is now reportedly looking to rush billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine before his term ends. The president is working on sending Ukraine $6 billion in military aid ahead of the inauguration of President elect Donald Trump in January of 2025. They fear a Trump White House, a GOP controlled Senate, and the possibility that a Republican controlled House of Representatives would cut off support for Zelensky, who has begged the U.S. for more money for the past 2 years and been hugely successful. Joining me now to discuss this last ditch effort and how it will impact the U.S. economic outlook is economist, public policy analyst, and professor of finance at Stockton University, Michael Busler. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Well, thanks for having me, Stacey. It's my pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about this. I actually really was thinking over the past couple of days, looking forward to a time when I don't have to expect the U.S. Treasury to take money that I work really hard for and send it to Ukraine. Instead, possibly ending the war there and the death and destruction. But I guess Biden he can't keep his hands on American money. He's got to send it out.
Biden loves to spend money. President Trump does not like to see people get killed. When he gets into office, he'll bring Putin and Zelensky together and he'll negotiate a settlement. Neither Putin nor Zelensky will be completely happy with the settlement, but I believe it'll be a settlement that each can live with and we can stop all the killing.
I agree with you. President Trump was the only one in any of the debates, presidential or vice presidential, in this cycle to mention wanting to stop the killing, not just in Ukraine, but in the Middle East and also at the southern border, where migrants are dying at an extraordinary pace, coming over under really rough conditions. Can we talk a little bit about what you think that might look like? I, for one, after reading a lot about the progress that the Russian military has made, I think they're going to end up with about 20 to 22% of the territory that used to be proper Ukraine.
Yeah, so the western edge of Ukraine, most of the people there actually speak Russian. And years ago, much of the Ukraine was even part of Russia. I think, and I agree with this, Stacey, I think Zelensky will have to give up some land very reluctantly, but I think Trump will just say, listen, we just can't keep pouring hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into this, and you can't have your people getting killed. We have to stop the fighting so people stop getting killed. If you lose a little bit and Putin doesn't gain what he wants, so be it. But Trump will say, look, the U.S. can't keep paying all this money and sending all these arms there and having all these people die. It just doesn't make any sense.
There's also the loss of equipment. Now, I understand that the U.S. military industrial complex is using the Ukrainian war as an opportunity to refill America's coffers with newer, updated military equipment. We get that. But there is the issue of waste. We have sent over, I believe it was 17 F-16s. 2 of them have already been destroyed. It was almost immediate due to accidents. They weren't destroyed within wartime fighting. So we're talking about 70 million a pop, I think, for those aircraft. This is an extraordinary expense for us to be continuing to send over, even if it's under the guise of replenishing our own military stockpile.
Yeah, and the Patriot missile systems are also extremely effective and very expensive, and we can't keep doing that. You know, one thing that the U.S. did that under the Biden administration, he retreated from Afghanistan. And when he did that, he left the Bagram Air Base there, which was our only tactical air base in that part of the world. That's why all the fighting that's going on in the Middle East, we have to send ships over there rather than having an air base. There was $85 billion worth of U.S. military equipment that we just walked away from. So he said, look, we have to replenish a lot of these things, and we do. But the reason is we just gave all this stuff away, and as a result, we're in a weaker military position, and the amount of equipment and munitions and things that we have is relatively low, and we keep sending much of it to the Ukraine, and then Israel's in a war too, so we have to send some there. I think Trump will also act very quickly in the Middle East, and I believe what he'll say is, look, do what you have to do, Israel, to win the war and get this thing over with, rather than the Biden administration has been hesitant to send some arms to them. Trump will take a different view. Let's get this war over. Let's get back to where we were before. Remember, I had the Abraham Accords. We had 4 or 5 Arab countries agree to peace. We're on the verge of getting Saudi Arabia to agree, and then all of this broke out. He will also reinstate the sanctions on Iran. When those sanctions were lifted by the Biden administration, it allowed Iran to sell oil on the open market. Again, most of it was purchased by China and some by India, but it allowed it to be sold. Tens of billions of dollars flowed into Iran, which allowed them to finance the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Those organizations wouldn't have what they have had the sanctions been left in place.
My gosh. And then there was some story today about the Biden administration quietly loosening even further sanctions on proxies over in the Middle East. So, this could be quite a dangerous last little cycle here. We've seen a lot of really ill thought out decisions made by the Biden administration, their Department of State, Department of Justice. I mean, it's just been a whole of government approach to idiocy that I don't think we've seen in the modern era since maybe the Carter administration. And it's difficult for Americans. We can't get President Trump into the office fast enough. Talk to me a little bit more, returning back to Putin. He made a statement earlier this week upon learning that President Trump would be President-elect Trump again. He said that President Trump isn't friendly to him, and so he didn't really have a comment. President Xi came out with a kind of coded message saying, welcome back, and we hope you'll take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you. What do you make of the new realignment now that they know they're going to be dealing with someone who's really mean?
So appeasement, which the Biden administration has been using for 4 years, trying to appease everybody, doesn't work. What works is what Reagan started, and Trump will continue: peace through strength. The stronger the military gets, the less likely you'll have to use it, because the opposition will realize if they try to go against the strong U.S., they're going to come out on the short end. So the sheriff is back in town, and as soon as he gets there, all of our adversaries are going to have to take a much different approach, because if they try to strike and hurt U.S. interests, President Trump will strike back, and they know that.
I really appreciate that, because I think one of the huge successes that the media never covered during the Trump administration was how he was able to almost bankrupt the Iranian government because of the sanctions that were in place. And he didn't actually, I don't believe there were new sanctions. It was simply the implementation of sanctions already on the table. He just took tools already at his disposal and refused to allow them to take money from the sale of their oil to fund their terror proxies around the globe, which meant the Middle East was safer, United States was safer, our troops abroad were safer. I can't wait to see that back. I just want to close the loop on that. I mentioned this story here, widely reported this morning, that on election day, the Biden-Harris administration quietly waived terrorism sanctions on the Palestinian government. This actually enables the Palestinian government in Gaza to fight back against the Israelis, who simply want the return of their hostages. We don't know how many of the 101 hostages that are left are actually alive, what condition they're in. And this is a terrible thing for them to do here. So as we close out, can you close us out on that, a comment there?
Yeah, we have to stop giving in to these organizations that hate us. They keep saying not only death to Israel and death to the U.S. We need to stop this once and for all, rather than let this drag on. Trump's going to allow Israel to fight, and he'll probably allow them to attack Iran. Iran's air defense systems are in shambles. It would be relatively easy, not completely easy, but relatively easy for Israel to go in. And really, if they wipe out the oil fields, they wipe out the nuclear facilities, that's really the end of the Iranian regime. And the Iranian people, they don't want this. They want to be peaceful, and they want to go back to some sanity, and Trump's going to allow them to do that.
I cannot wait to see it. We are so grateful for your time, Michael Busler, economist and public policy analyst. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. My pleasure. Look forward to doing it again.
All right. Up next, Democrats like Jon Stewart begin to process the loss and get honest with themselves. Coming up next on SNC.